Good evening and welcome to the Communication Committee meeting here February 24th, 2022, 6 p.m. I am Mike Elliott, I am the chair. Our members include Emily McCormick and Peg Pennypacker. We're also joined by Communications Specialist Nikki Gum, our Superintendent Dr. Alan Roach, and board members JP Prego and Dana Hipser. The first thing on our agenda for tonight is approval of the March 12th, 2020 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second time?
Second. Any discussion? This is quite a long time ago.
That was the last day of normalcy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it was.
we were just talking about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Which is kind of one of the reasons we haven't met
Right.
since then, with all the other meetings and stuff like that, and all the other things that we've had going on. So, any other discussion, any questions or anything? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, up next is our overview of the district communication channels. Nikki, that's you.
Yes, so Mike and I had a chance to catch up via phone maybe 3 weeks ago now,
Yeah.
something like that. And we just talked about, we have some new members on the board and certainly on this committee. We have not met since pre-COVID times, at least in the pre-COVID in the education sphere in the United States. And so we thought today, since we have a short time together, maybe it would benefit everybody around the table to just do a quick overview. I have some analytics and data to share. Just a reminder of what we're talking about when we're talking about the primary avenues available to us to communicate with all of our audiences and some things like that. So maybe that will better inform our conversations beginning at our May meeting and then moving forward. So I did put together just a brief presentation here, and I won't bore you to death, I promise. It'll be brief, but so when I came on board, I just had my 4-year anniversary for some of you who are not familiar with the history, and there was no communication specialist prior to me joining the team here. So they said it was in the midst of a lot of turmoil in regards to the new middle school project. There were certainly some things going on that I think the district felt they needed to get a better handle on communication-wise. And actually, one of my pitches when I interviewed for the position was, they asked me something about how we'd handle a crisis, and I kind of said, well, we're in the midst of a crisis right now, and we talked a little bit about that, but I do think, since I've come on board, and certainly with Alan's leadership, I think we've done a great job of improving and expanding on the channels that we do have available to us. But anyway, one of the things I did was sort of put together a little bit of a communications plan when I got here. And this is something I revisit a couple times a year maybe, but the overarching goals do not change. And those are the 3 big bullet points you see there. Establish and maintain a brand or identity for the district. I'm hoping we can talk more about that at our next meeting perhaps. Communicate clearly, consistently, and regularly with our primary audiences, which you'll see, those are the folks we talk about. I would call those the more internal audiences, parents and guardians, families in general, students themselves, employees across the board, and of course, you folks. And then my third point is kind of to reach beyond that. The folks who live in the community but maybe don't have a student in the district. We certainly partner with a lot of community organizations, the Chamber, the Y, folks like that. And then, of course, media outlets are one of our audiences, and, hardly a week goes by that we're not communicating with Town and Country, for example. So those were kind of my overarching goals. And then every year I sort of revisit the main points I want to make. I'm going to go a little out of order. You'll see there's 2 points. It's a little hard to see on the screen, but there's 2 in red. One is to this school year resume a focus on positive storytelling. I will be honest, over the last year and a half prior to this school year, there was not a lot of that. It was very operational in our communications. We were talking a lot about COVID. Events weren't happening, recognitions weren't happening. The fun stuff that makes learning fun, interesting, exciting was not necessarily happening in the same way. Of course, our educators did a great job adapting to, the challenges that were before them. But it was different, right? I wasn't going out into buildings taking pictures. I wasn't meeting with teachers, things like that. So I'm happy to say, whenever I do have time, I have definitely refocused on that this year, whether it's through social media posts, whether it's through little blurbs in the Friday updates, whether it's through standalone stories. I did a series on our principals during Principals Month, things like that. So I'm very happy with kind of how we've been moving forward with that particular goal for this year. And then the other one, which again, I hope we can talk more about at our next meeting when we have more time, is just revisiting a brand. And I'm talking about everything from, let's have some consistent letterhead to let's talk about how we talk about the district and how, if Peg, for example, has a presentation she's going to do through another organization and she wants her presentation, her PowerPoint or, Google slide deck to look like it's from Upper Perk, can she pull that off the website and literally plug and go? So some things like that. I have started to work towards those ends. I was really looking forward to this committee getting back together again, so maybe we can brainstorm a little more on that. And then I'm not going to get too in-depth with all these other ones. I'm happy to share this if you want to look at some of these links and things more. But, just, again, moving beyond the operational stuff on social media. Again, I'm happy to say we have been doing that this year. Again, I wouldn't say things are 100% normal, but they're getting there. And so I've been very pleased with how we've been recognizing events and things like that. So those were some of the things I wanted to keep in mind as we were moving into this school year. So to pivot a little bit, I want to just briefly, quickly outline the kind of main channels we use to get at those audiences we talked about earlier. Certainly the website. Whenever possible, we as a team try to drive people back to information that's available on the website. It's something that's under our control. It's always there, except for, we had that little blip when our vendor went down a month or so ago. That was out of our control. But, it's something that is, again, under our control and steady. It's always there. The email updates. One of the things Alan and I have worked together since he came on board is those regular Friday updates. I think sometimes people might be a little cheeky and say, oh, but they're so long. I am sure there are some people who kind of just delete them or just maybe scan them. We do try to make them really scannable and digestible. So if you see something that's middle school, oh, I don't have a kid in the middle school, you can just sort of jump past it. It's been a regular time when we know we can get in front of a lot of people within the district.
Yeah.
One of my goals that I talked about at that March 2020 meeting was to add more newsy type content in that. We have done that over the past couple of years. I'd like to do more of that as I have more time to do that, hopefully. And as things kind of, as I said before, return to normalcy. I just wanted to put up there, we have about 3,800 contacts on our list that Friday update goes to. Some of those are hitting the same family more than once, of course, but that's a pretty sizable number. And of course, I did just want to mention, as you all know, we do have the ability to do phone calls and texts as part of that system for more emergent type things. The social media accounts I'll talk more about in just a moment, but the three big ones are Facebook, which is I would say our most engaged platform. Twitter, we do not get a lot of engagement on. I do post a lot of things on Twitter that are easy to shorten or to drive people, again, back to our website, back to our Facebook page. And Instagram's the fun one, right? That's like very visual. I don't put a lot of information heavy stuff on Instagram, but we get great engagement, especially from students on Instagram, which is really fun. That's where our students seem to be, at least in the three that we are on as an official district channel. And then I just wanted to mention a few others that we utilize from time to time. Of course, our teachers are communicating directly through a number of channels. We have other software systems that are used for communication in various ways. There are times we'll put an advertisement in Town and Country and Shopper's Guide, for example, kindergarten registration, things like that. And then, of course, the direct communication that you all have, at your meetings and things like that, or that we have when we're out in the community. I'm gonna try and keep my part to another 5 minutes or so, because I know we have more we probably want to chat about. I worked with our IT folks this week just to get a little bit of a look at our district website. We mainly looked at the past month because we felt like it was a fairly average month, it's during the school year, things like that. We had about 317,000 impressions on our website. And one of the things we sort of extrapolated from some of this data was we think a lot of that traffic is internal. There's not really a great way with Google Analytics to determine where the sources are from. Like, you can see geographically, but that doesn't really sort out someone in this building from someone who lives down the street, for example. So we were surprised by the 44% come from a desktop or laptop, because we know a lot of our parents access on their phones, but I believe a lot of that is our district machines, like literally someone like me sitting at their website, every time I open a browser, it goes to upsd.org. So I just wanted to show you some of the things that people are looking for or accessing on our website. The homepage is our number one, of course. Closings and delays page, I would imagine a different month, that might be different. Of course, we're in the midst of winter weather.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, that one will spike tomorrow morning. The high school landing page, Skyward Family Access, no surprise there. The middle school landing page, the school calendar is a big one. We're talking about the religious exemption form. Again, I believe that is more timely, that one was accessed a lot. The faculty portal, again, that speaks to a lot of internal traffic. People don't have things bookmarked necessarily. People might be navigating through that daily or multiple times a day. Employment opportunities, I'm sure Georgie would be happy to see that that's a frequently visited page. And then our About the District page. And then the other thing I'll tell you from working with websites for quite a long time is a lot of people don't navigate through your website. They just search for whatever they need. So maybe Paula would be excited to see what some of the most searched for terms are, and that's if this is from that bar that you see on the top of our website. People are looking for calendars and lunch menus largely, but beyond that, Schoology, Skyward, and sports were the other things that popped out there over the past month. So that just gives you a little idea of where the traffic is heading. Again, that will change a bit, I'm sure, month to month, but I thought that would give you at least an idea of how our families and others are using our website. And just one point of clarification I did want to make, we do have a bit of a split in our responsibilities for producing content and maintaining and updating different pages on the website. Anything you see that's high level is generally either myself, Sharon Shipe in the IT department, or some of the different directors of different departments maintain their own pages. Andrea is certainly very good with the website, and others are good with that too. But then the building pages are the responsibility of the building webmasters. So that is just maybe another point of conversation for a future time, but that gives you a little bit of an overview of the website. And then I have one more thing I want to show you here before maybe we talk about ideas or areas for improvement or anything else we want to chat about. And that is just a quick overview of our social media presences. I know I told you that our Facebook page is probably one of our more robust for engagement. And this is the one I'm probably the most proud of how much we've grown it since I came on board here. We have more than doubled the number of followers in 4 years. And I will tell you that was one area it was low-hanging fruit for me when I came on board, because social media was sort of done by committee before they had a dedicated me. And it was very operational. It was like, we have a 2-hour delay today, this is happening next Friday. And it wasn't terribly engaging content.
Yeah.
And so we've shifted, I would say, over the past couple years, I aim to do 2 or 3 posts a week. Of course, some weeks there's not a lot going on. Maybe we don't do that. Some weeks there's a lot going on, and we have more than that. So that's kind of the average I aim for. It just, again, it's totally dependent on where we are in the school calendar. Of course, we've got like a ton of great stuff coming up. We've got a middle school musical, we've got a high school play, well, actually 3 one-act plays that will be presented at the high school this year. As we move into May and June, we have a ton of great end-of-year stuff. Those weeks, maybe there's 4 or 5 posts, so it just totally depends on where we are in the calendar, but I do try and strike a pretty good balance. I will also share that one of the challenges of Facebook over the last 2 years has certainly been this is not my term, but what is called trolls. And unfortunately, even when we post really great positive stories about wonderful things our kids and our teachers are doing, unfortunately we do get a fair number of negative comments on those about other things. And so, there are times, I will be honest, I do try and strike a balance of what's the conversation going to be on these posts versus, these are a lot of things we really want to share that are great. So, I'll be honest, I take that hard because I'm really proud of what our students do, what our teachers do, what our staff does, and then to see something unrelated sort of drag that post down can be frustrating. So
Can you disable, I know you can disable the comments, or do you feel that that's not?
it's not wise to do for a public entity.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I will be honest, Alan and I have spoken about this. I think we even maybe talked
We
about
talked
this
about
in
it, yeah.
communications committee before. If something is out and out wrong, like factually wrong, I will chime in from the district account, or if someone asks a question, I'll sometimes reply to the comment thread, sometimes I will direct message someone. If it's literally just, like vitriol, like someone that needs to get something off their chest or whatever, my approach historically has been to ignore it. You can't delete it because that's essentially censorship, and I've actually been through quite a few webinars about that topic. So, what I've found is a lot of times our community sort of self-corrects. Like other people will sort of chime in and be like, this isn't the time to talk about that, or let's just let these kids have their great experience. So that's been frustrating. I would say that's definitely spiked over the last couple of years, with disagreements about masking and mandates and so on and so forth, differences of opinion in those areas. So that can be frustrating, but that's not going to stop me from sharing, the good stuff that's happening. And the only way you can really combat that is with more positivity. So just really quickly, and then I'll wrap up and allow to Mike to sort of continue, and we can chat about anything else. Like I said, Twitter, we don't get a lot of great engagement on there. I think Twitter has changed even in the past 4 years. So, we've grown that one a little bit over the years. But again, that's more just sort of spitting out whatever I'm posting elsewhere, just because it's easy to do so. And, you can still put a couple photos on there and things like that. And then I'm very pleased with Instagram. We didn't have an Instagram account when I came on board. Again, that was low-hanging fruit for me. I thought we needed one pretty much immediately. I started it about a month after I came on board. And, we have almost 1,500 followers on Instagram now. And again, we get a lot of good engagement, especially from the younger set, which is not necessarily on Facebook. So, I'm happy to see that as well. So that's a bit, all right, 20 minutes, that wasn't too bad. So I'm sorry that was like a whirlwind. And it jumped to a couple different topical areas, but I wanted to give you an idea of some of the things when I'm not doing crisis communications or COVID communications, some of the things that I do try and focus on in those 20 hours a week that I'm in the office. I hope that was helpful.
No, very helpful. It's a nice overview. There's a lot of great information there. Is there anything that jumps out at anybody? Does anybody have any questions about any of that stuff?
I'll say as a consumer of that information, I do appreciate a lot of it. And use a lot of it. I follow it on Instagram, I follow it on Facebook. I don't really use Twitter. So, So, and the emails, we get one from each principal.
Mhm.
I have kids in 2 different schools, so I get two of those, and then I get Dr. Roche's, and but I still look at them all and make sure I didn't miss anything, and things like that. So I appreciate the communication that's going on. I think we can only go up from here. I think it's great.
I mean, I really like to your point, the Instagram is fun. Twitter seems to have become such a negative cesspool sort of place for so many conversations that I'm not surprised our engagement there, because that's not where people go to read happy stuff. They go to argue about whatever, at least, you know, for whatever topic it seems, from sports to whatever. Joke there. But as far as the Instagram goes, that is such a great thing, because you kind of go there for more happy, feel-good stuff, and that's a great place to put all that. And do you ever get any of the trolling on the Instagram too, or is it mostly Facebook?
Not nearly as much, here
Yeah.
and there, but I would say Facebook is the primary source of that.
Yeah.
Just because the nature of it, you know, it's a long thread, you can reply to individual commenters,
Right.
you know. I think when we talk about, I hate to bring this up because it is negative, but we talk about oftentimes in these types of conversations about a lot of misinformation gets spread elsewhere on Facebook in regards to things that are going on in the district. That's not often something that happens on our pages. That's things that happen in other groups or, you know, on personal Facebook pages.
Right.
And it's a shame because that's not something that offers the opportunity for someone like myself to jump in and respond. Like I was talking about, something is actually factually inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem stepping in and saying, well, actually, and you know,
Yeah.
here's the webpage you can visit, or if you refer to the email from last Friday, or you know,
Right.
whatever the case may be. But you know, we're never going to overcome that. That's essentially the 2022 version of, you know, water cooler conversation, or the conversation on the sidelines of the soccer field, or
Yeah.
you know, whatever the case may be. It just has a new platform now. So, but yeah, I would say Facebook is certainly, just given the nature of it and given, I would say, the age range of most people on Facebook, I think that's where a lot of those negative conversations are gonna, and comment threads are gonna grow legs.
Well, I think that's a healthy way to look at it too, is that it's just kind of, you know, kind of part of the beast, as it were, right? So kind of take it as it comes, and like you were saying, face it with a positivity. I think that's good.
If there's things that are tagged to our page, they're addressed. We're not in the business of going out to pages.
Oh,
to find
God, no.
things. There's private groups, there's other open groups, there's other things that it's unmanageable. So I
Yeah.
mean, that's been, if people tag stuff to us or
Yep.
have questions or direct message, and you know, those are replied to.
Yep.
For a while, we were using questions at UPSD for an email group
Yep.
for certain things when we were going through all the hybrid and all that other stuff. But
Yeah, I haven't gotten many. I
Yeah, no,
occasionally
yeah.
get a one-off one
Yeah.
here or there and that. but-
Is that email address still active?
It's still active, and I check in with it maybe once or twice a week, depending, but
Okay.
we haven't promoted it in a while.
Right.
And I think people were also associating it with COVID-type stuff for some time, or closure-type stuff, I guess, would be more accurate. So we haven't really gotten anything on there, but if we would have something topically where we know we're gonna get a lot of questions, I would have no problem promoting that again, because it always exists there, so.
Right.
But I do get, I would say on average, our Facebook inbox, maybe 3 or 4 questions a week or comments, you know. But they can be anything from someone confusing us with the Perkiomen School and asking how much tuition is, to when are yearbooks coming out, to, you know, and
Yeah.
so I do monitor that. I try and get back to people within, you know, maybe 12 hours, depending on when it comes in. I get a lot of those at 11 o'clock at night, imagine that, you know, people sitting at home and think of something, but.
Right before they fall asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah, so, you know, those might wait until 9 o'clock the next morning, but I do try and be very timely, and if I can't answer them, I direct them, you know, appropriately, so we get some of those, but they're more one-off type things.
Yeah. Oh, Peg.
Well, I have to say, the district has come a long way relative to communication, websites, Facebook, et cetera, since you've been hired. So
I appreciate that.
kudos to you. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I think it probably falls on your shoulders to keep up with the kiddies because they're way ahead of the adults.
That's true.
Personally,
Mhm.
I would love 2 things to happen, but this is just me.
Sure.
A redesign of our website, because I find it to be extremely boring.
You're preaching to the choir on that one.
Okay. And some type of connection or promotion of alumni. And whether or not that's a connection with the Ed Foundation,
Those conversations are happening.
because we're talking about that, but we have amazing alumni from Upper Perk that are doing or have done amazing things. And not to be negative on it, but, you know, since moving back to the community, you know, I just felt a disconnect with the school,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons I ran for school board, because I love Upper Perk. This is my home. And I would just like to see more outreach to alumni, because I think we're missing the boat.
I think that's a fair point. It's interesting you say that. I literally just the other day looked back to some of my application materials for this position, and one of my ideas was creating some sort of landing area. Like, I come from higher ed, so, you know, usually there's an alumni relations department, but maybe creating some sort of web page
I would love
or
that. I would love to help with that.
some sort of, but, you know, Alan, you certainly know more of those conversations that are happening at the foundation level.
Well, the foundation, I mean, the foundation itself, I mean, they've talked about the untapped potential of alumni, and I agree, and as well as the untapped potential of the actual Ed Foundation itself. And they've gone through a cycle there. Mike probably knows better than anyone in terms of hiring someone and then not having that piece work out. And now they're doing, right now we're rolling on volunteers. And we've had different models, right? We had someone in from North Penn, we had someone in from Souderton, we had different models of things. And part of that conversation is committing to district resources to have some of those things happen, not fully, but some of those things supporting that from a standpoint, obviously. Recently, I've gotten Giselle a lot more involved with like thank you letters and things that normally to free up our volunteers and Luann and Andy Pastoria and people that have been there for a while. So that way it makes it easy for them to want to continue to be involved, because it's other stuff that we can get done from the school standpoint.
You're getting or will be getting several applications for the Academic Hall of Fame from alumni.
Yeah.
Amazing people, and I think the Academic Hall of Fame could be another jump-off point to help develop that alumni piece. It's amazing.
Yep.
That would be another well to tap into as far as, you know, we talk about getting the community organizations involved in our schools. That would be another, especially when you talk through the lens of career preparation and preparation for after graduation, the alums would be another great place to start for that too. And just to speak to your comment about the website, I will be honest, I hate our website.
Right.
A little history, they had just signed a new contract and basically redesigned about a year before I came on board. And they did in fact sign a 5-year contract. So that is coming up. I'd have to check with the IT folks to be sure about what the details are there. You know, a web redesign is a big time investment, money investment, but I will be honest with you, I personally agree with you 100%.
It is not user-friendly.
And it's incredibly infuriating as someone who works on the back end.
But
as well.
just the design,
Yeah.
I mean, it's boring.
At the time, it was sort of cutting edge.
Yeah.
Now I think it's looking a little dated.
Yeah.
And there are some usability issues, I agree
Yeah.
100%. And unfortunately, the type of agreement we have with Final Site only allows us to change certain aspects of it. So Sharon and I beat our heads against the wall several times with things that just aren't working the way we would like them to.
Yeah.
I think for now, you know, we knew we had the contract, so we're doing what we can with it. But I won't fight anyone who wants to do a web redesign.
It's awesome.
So with that contract being up, obviously, probably with the next one, maybe look for a shorter time frame. I mean, definitely. maybe
Yeah, I'd have to
look-
talk to the IT folks. I don't know if they've signed an extension. I have no idea, to be honest.
I don't know. I haven't
Yeah.
heard anything.
I knew we were approaching it only because our website was less than a year old when I came on board, and I just hit 4 years, so.
Yeah. I think the challenge there, just like other contracts, is obviously you get a better rate as you push out
Sure.
for your yearly maintenance. And it's a monster to update and re-all and meetings and meetings and meetings and
Yeah.
sessions to either learn that side, but also, you know, import all your all your
Your
information.
current content, yeah. So
Maybe
I-
there's even a way to work with the current company to
So
find
they do
something.
have, like, you could go up up a tier, you know, that would allow certain things. You can do what's called a new, what do they call it? A new template, which would change the appearance largely. And then if you get a new template, I believe they do a lot of the migration for you.
Okay.
I will tell you, maybe quarterly or so, Sharon and I try and get together and pull some old stuff off the website, because we do have stuff that just becomes a relic. And I'll be honest, I'm not always in the best position to say, hey, nobody visits that page, or that form has been outdated for
Right.
a year and a half, or, so we do try and do that where we can. Like, I'll just give you a great example. The parents drop-down menu was getting incredibly unwieldy.
Yeah.
It was actually to the point on some devices, you couldn't always get to the bottom part. Now, if you click on the parent's header, you can see all that stuff in the left-hand nav, but people who aren't terribly tech-savvy may not realize that. So we started taking some headers off there that were, or combining some things
Yeah.
that made sense to go together. So we do try and do that. Again, you know, time is always a challenge with those types of things, but we try and do that on a fairly regular basis. And another challenge is we have a very decentralized updating structure. You know, there's a lot of people, a lot of cooks in the kitchen as far as the website's concerned. So it can just be a challenge to sort of get your arms around that when there's people in 6 different buildings updating things, you know, with varying levels of, shall we say, experience, you know, and
Right.
things. So I do try, and as soon as I see something that maybe doesn't, you know, you see crazy font or something like that, I might try and like go in and brush that up if I see it. But we've talked a little bit about how we can refine that process and make better connections if those webmaster positions are going to continue to exist at the buildings, how we can maybe lend a little oversight to that and make sure the building pages are getting updated as frequently as the district pages are and things like that. So, always on our minds, but yes, I agree, the website is not fantastic.
Right. Good. Feel better.
So I know, Mike, you want to try and keep this about 35 minutes or so. It's 6:33. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to discuss?
Well, do we want to, you know, we brought up some good stuff here tonight. Whether it's talking about somehow getting an alumni highlights page in there, partnering with the Public Education Foundation. We talked about the more interactive website, so, you know, how long is the contract? There's a little, we could reach out to Jim about that. Maybe he has some stuff for us. You mentioned the webmasters and talking, you know, what, do we need to talk about that or review that? And then some, again, to the web design, I have that down there, I gotta move that around. And then, you know, trying to get community organizations involved in the page. But maybe the focus of the next meeting is some more, you know, diving into some more of that stuff and maybe try to come back with some answers and some more information from the Education Foundation, some more information from Jim, and just trying to progress forward from there. Maybe. Thoughts?
I think the one thing you just gotta make sure, it sounds like nobody's not sure yet if we sign an extension with the current,
Right.
you know.
I don't think we have. I just,
Right.
I don't know where we're at in conversations with
Right.
that, because that's not fully my,
You just don't wanna wait too long on that and then find out, oh, we just signed
Yeah,
another 3
yeah,
years, like,
yeah.
Would it hurt for you to start shopping around now?
so Sharon and I have actually taken a few presentations with some different folks. There's like sort of 5 or less big ones in education, you know, like the Blackboards and places like that. Some offer some really great stuff. I know some surrounding districts have gone with Blackboard recently. I talked to a few folks recently, I forget what district it was. I talked to a woman who they just re-upped their final site contract, and she wanted to know if we were as frustrated as they were. So, you know, I think we've started down that path, you know, informally, but I don't think it would hurt to revisit that.
Yeah, okay.
So with that, and then the district branding, you know, we could talk more about that with the next meeting as well.
Yeah, I've started down that path sort of myself, so I'd be happy to,
Yeah.
at least, I know Mike at that March, and Dana, you were there at that March 2020 meeting, I did a brief presentation
Right.
on that. I'd be happy to even bring that again, and I've
You wanna
started,
do that?
and I started to put together some examples of some ideas that, like tangible stuff. So maybe that would be, those two things, sort of revisit the website conversation and then start to talk about branding. That would work on my end.
Dan?
About some sort of comprehensive and cohesive sports coverage, team coverage.
Ooh.
Yeah. I have issues with our
Oh, have you ever tried to navigate that,
Were you going up or whatever?
yeah, good.
Yeah, I have issues with the athletics pages.
I've only ever consumed that content, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, certainly some new faces since we held these committee meetings on the board, but, just so you all know, I am a 20-hour-a-week contracted employee, so I'm not always in the office, but I do try and be reachable, even when I've left. My standard hours tend to be 9 to 1, unless there's something going on. I just emailed Alan, told him I'll be at some of the senior shows for the productions that are coming up, so I'll have some wonky hours. Board meeting days tend to be a later day for me. I shift my hours to the afternoon. But, I do try and be available on my district cell, on email. So, please don't hesitate if you have an idea. If there's something cool going on in the district, I try and keep my ear to the ground as much as I can. I think after 4 years, a lot of people do think of me, but sometimes you all being community members hear things. So please don't hesitate to forward away, or if you take a cool picture at an event, feel free to text it to me. I can make sure you all have my district cell phone number if you don't already. Certainly other administrators do that, teachers do that, and I really appreciate it because in 20 hours a week, I cannot be everywhere. And even
Yeah.
if I was 40 or 60 hours a week, I probably couldn't be everywhere. But I do love to share that stuff, even if I'm not physically at the event or activity. So, please don't hesitate. I would love for you all to spam my inbox.
I think I grabbed the video of the post-prom fireworks.
Yeah, that was great.
Texted over to you like 11 o'clock at night, it was right up.
And it exploded.
It exploded.
No pun intended.
I see what you did there.
It was one of the more positive things,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon, sometimes being a photographer, she's out in the community, she'll send me pictures sometimes, so. I'll be at the bocce playoffs on Monday at 2 p.m. taking some photos, so that'll be a good one.
Cool.
So a lot of good stuff in the next 3 months or so, so I'll be hopefully out and about quite a bit.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Judy, anything you want to throw in?
I just came to listen.
Okay, cool. I think everybody else has chimed in with some good stuff.
One more thing, did
Sure.
anybody notice about the Town and Country disabled the letters to the editor?
I saw that.
What do you mean disabled it?
Well, they're not taking any letters to the editor for a month.
Wow.
Something must
because,
have happened.
Wow.
I think they must have got a threat or something from somebody.
You're
Wow.
not
Besides-
taking any, you can't write a letter to the
I
editor?
guess you
Yeah,
can,
they're
but
not
they're
gonna
not gonna
publish
put it in.
Oh, wow.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
People get carried away.
Just a little. All right, so we covered a lot of great stuff. Any closing thoughts from anyone or anything? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Thank you.
Any discussion?